Another mastermind hit.
Or supports it, so they're not going to. So
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Broderick Randall Jr. I'm a business development and sales over at Bentley's. We're a medical cannabis processing facility. And besides that, I'm a sickle cell warrior. I'm a medical cannabis patient. I believe in using the plant medicine as a better quality form of medicine rather than opioids. And that's why I'm here to help talk about my journey and amongst other people here. We're here to mention how this plant is a better opportunity for people of Ohio and the nation, really. That we need to change the stigma on it, and I'm here to help use our voices. And I'm thankful for Juanita and Anthony and Menelec, State Rep Juanita Brent. I'm sorry about that. And I'm just grateful to have the opportunity.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Latasha Roundtree. I'm from Dayton, Ohio.
Yeah.
I first got in this industry as a patient. I was diagnosed with polycystic ovarian. The only place that we knew to get some help so that I wouldn't end up suffering anymore on opioids was in Colorado, when someone told me that there was medical marijuana in the state of Michigan. I went to Michigan as a medical marijuana refugee patient, where I had to prove that I was not going to be on their public assistance, but I was actually coming there for medical marijuana help. I later went on to become a caregiver. I studied cultivation, extraction, and processing. I came back to Dayton to lead the way, to let everyone know that they didn't have to suffer. That's when I found the Ohio Rights Group and became the Montgomery County captain. We turned in over 20,000 signatures collectively in our area. I later joined the Sensible Movement Coalition, where I then legislatively decriminalized marijuana in the city of Dayton faster than any other person, any other organization. Once we did that, and we stopped people from getting tickets, stopped people from going to jail for a plant, I then started running expungement clinics in the city of Dayton, where we've cleaned over 600 records. We later went on to add on wraparound services. So now at my expungement clinics, we also do driver's license reinstatement. We also do public utilities assistance, such as power and gas. We do driver's license reinstatement with help with car insurance. We help with car repair. We do housing. What we do is we break down barriers so that people can be successful. I'm currently working with different landlords and apartment complexes so that patients are safe and not fearing being removed from their homes for being legal cannabis patients. So what I've been doing is working with homeowners, working with landlords to develop a policy of tolerance, which means if you're a landlord or you run an apartment complex, what we've done is change the policy so that the policy of tolerance states, if you are a legal medical marijuana patient, we will not evict you. We will not call the police on you. You don't have to be in fear of having the police called on you. And I can only do that for working class people, because if you are in federal housing, you are still at risk of being evicted from your home. So what I'm doing is trying to bring awareness to how important, we just can't have marijuana. We need to make sure that the laws that put us in jeopardy of losing our kids, put us in jeopardy of losing our homes, put us in jeopardy of losing our jobs are absolutely addressed. So thank you.
Thank you, Tasha. I am Bill Schmidt Jr., lifelong marijuana supporter, obviously, because I was born on 4/20 of 1977. So I was just kind of thrown into this whole lifestyle, but I'm very blessed to have that birthday. And I like to fight for patients' rights, like the people that came with me. As you've seen my squad coming in, everybody has some type of issue. We're all patients. I love standing for the people, even though I am a medical cannabis patient myself for chronic pain. I feel that because I am able to move a little bit more and do a couple other things, that I have different skill sets, I need to be these guys' voice, and I need to try to really push the pedal to the gas. Sometimes I'm a little bit edgy. Sometimes people don't like me, but people's always going to admire my passion and determination to really get to a common goal. And that's something that this panel up here it's very important for this to happen. You know, we have the full legalization rep bill that just came out, Republican bill yesterday, the Democratic bill. We got the citizens fighting for it. But right now we have a unique chance to change the 7th largest state's recreational market right now. We need to address social equity issues. We need to make sure that our veterans and minorities are represented. And there's just a lot of things to this. Like she said, housing, that was something that's on my list too, as well as CPS, you know, work-related issues and drug testing, DUI laws. There's so much that we have to fight for. So even once we legalize marijuana here in Ohio, don't think the fight is up. There are still so many policies that we need to move forward for the people in Ohio. But I love you guys. Appreciate the time.
Thanks, Bill. Hello, my name is Nicole Phoenix. I'm from the Cleveland School of Cannabis. But first and foremost, I'm a mother of a child who has ulcerative colitis and has his medical card. And through his journey of playing college football, we had to deal with the NCAA and drug testing. And then also for him getting jobs. So it was always that debate. Does he, you know, fake urine test, or does he quit using cannabis and deal with the pain? So those are some of my life journeys with cannabis. I'm also a caregiver. I've fortunately in the age bracket where all my friends' parents are sick, and, you know, they want to get them, you know, working with cannabis. So educating people on cannabis, and obviously being an educator, I think to make all these changes that everyone just talked about.
I think the best thing for the program since it started, it's just been a couple things. The quality has definitely been up. That's one thing that I can say. Everybody knows that I go from state to state all over the place, trying a bunch of different strains. And I really kind of a snob.
Yeah, we know. We're getting it back. We're bringing it back.
And Ohio, every state that I go to, it's like I seem like I'm comparing it to Ohio in some ways. When it comes to quality, a lot of other things we need to work on, as far as like the limits and things like that too, because my limit isn't the same as somebody else's. I have been to some chronic pain, PTSD, and issues like that. But you know, the program has came around, and I think the quality of the events, I would say, in my opinion, is the biggest thing from the start. Because at first, we was getting straight mids. And nobody liked it. It was just like driving through the basement, wasn't cured right. And just to let you know, it's very aggressive. Galenas.
I'm good.
You good? Okay. All right. Just to add in on that, I know there was a period in time prior to House Bill 523 passing that we even questioned if there would be actual flower in the program. So, I mean, I think that's been a huge victory for a lot of us. There was talk of lozenges only and things like that. So to have actual smokable flower on dispenser, well, not smokable, vaporizable flower on dispensary shelves is a great accomplishment for all the activists that got it there. The other thing that I think is great about Ohio's marijuana law are the qualifying conditions. I know that there are additional conditions which can be added, and I'm glad that people are taking, making progress into getting those added in, but having that pain, that chronic pain qualifying condition really was a major boon to the medical marijuana program, and helps a lot of people who otherwise would be using opiates to manage their pain.
Can I add to that, Christine? There's a lot of states that don't have medical marijuana, and they're gonna hold out and be like 2.0 states, so they're gonna cap it at 2% and just make it a real low THC. So as you said, like, it's great that Ohio is medical, and then that's the hopefully will be to adult use in home grow. So I think that just has opened up. And yes, it's awesome that we have compared to New York State. That's awesome.
So we'll move right now into our next question. Kind of along the same lines as the first one. Many of us in this room have worked for years to bring cannabis law reform to Ohio, and we have visions of how the future would look after medical legalization. Now that we're several years since the passage of House Bill 523, is the program functioning as you hoped it would prior to the law's passage?
I think that they have made it a little difficult in the program. We do have the program. The best thing is actually getting the legislators educated on this plan. That is a huge hurdle. When you go to these offices, these people, first of all, they don't think that their people support it or want it. And I always encourage them to just go to their grocery store or go to their local area.
Why can't I hear?
Ask around, but they really don't know anything about this plan other than it messes people's lives up. They go to jail and it tears families apart. And that's what the problem is. If the law fixes it,
It's nothing that this plant has physically done to these people. If anything, it's helped everybody. It's gotten people off of drugs and it's kept people off the streets. So I think the best thing is just education, both the public, but definitely these law makers and changers. If you want to change anything, you've got to get it, the education and then the information, because we can complain about it and, you know, gripe about it all we want. But until someone steps up and makes that change, then it doesn't matter. What your opinion doesn't matter or anything like that. So unless you're willing to step up and do what it takes, you know, you just got to be there and support each other and show up when you're needed.
To feed off of that, I think that it would be beneficial if patients had the opportunity, patients and doctors had a better connection or opportunity to actually strengthen the relationship they've started by the doctor recommending the card. I feel like in some, it could depend on the physician themselves, but it seems in a lot of cases the physicians give the card and then you're on your way, and then the bud tenders are forced to like control the person's like medical journey the rest of the way, sort of. And I feel like if there was a better connection or system or structure to that, it would help further education and strengthen it amongst the community and the patients.
Okay. Here's the truth. We are disenfranchised from the medical agency or the medical field. They are so opposed to us that it is ridiculous, and they look at us as competition rather than integrating us. Like Rite Aid has a commercial like, "Hi, we're your wellness and your holistic pharmacy." There's no weed in there. And you're opposed to us using weed. If you are a pain clinic patient, you cannot be a medical marijuana patient. But most of the pain clinic patients that I work with say, if you give me 10 pills instead of 30 so that I can have something when I'm having a medical breakthrough, I would prefer to simply use medical marijuana for pain. But we acknowledge sometimes because of your industry, because of your injury, or because of your issues, you might need pharmaceutical drugs. So I'm not opposed to pharmaceutical drugs. Pharmaceutical drugs are opposed to me. When we should be working together for the benefit of the patient. We should be making sure that caregivers are educated and have the ability to grow, process, cook with, and deliver. Those same people should be able to go a step further and be subcontracted with people like Miss AK-47. If you've never met her, this is Ariana Kilpatrick, who is one of the first Black women to be vertically integrated to do those things. If I don't have patience, I should be able to work directly with her. I should be able to get my products processed by her or Miss Nicole Ross over here, who was actually the first woman of color to have a processing plant. We should be able to work with the people in the industry to work directly with the patients, because there is no medicine that works for everybody. So this is an individual thing. So like when Bill said, my tolerance level is not the same. Neither is people when they're on opiates. That's why you have Percocets who are 10s, 20s, 30s. So let's acknowledge that we have different needs for different patients. So the fact that they do not integrate us as medicine and not regulate, but have a system where we can acknowledge that the cannabis is different. Some people might only need mid grades, where some people need the high end. But we're acting like if you're over a certain age, we all smoked Reggie first. So to say that Reggie has no medical benefits, we all were on Reggie before we were doing hydro, before we were doing anything else. That dirt weed stopped stomach acid reflux, it stopped nausea, it stopped everything that you needed to be done. We only started using those fancy words like, oh, this is dro, so that we could sell it for a higher price. It became cultivated because like roses are not grown, roses are cultivated. So a true cultivator can bring out the best components in every single plant. What we need to do is teach people how to do that and to make sure that they're educated on every cannabinoid and the benefits of the full plant of this plant. So until that's done, we don't have a complete system.
And to keep it 100, just like Tasha just did. In your question, when you asked if the program is what we really thought it was going to be, the answer is no. Even though we do have some positive things, there's still a lot of things that we really need to work on. We need to work on patient limits as far as how much we need to have dispensaries more available. We need to have more grows. We really need to expand the program. We need to expand the qualifying conditions. But my biggest problem and heartbreak once we got medical marijuana in Ohio, it's not having home grow. Home grow is the single most important thing that we can do for our people. Not a lot of people are going to be able to grow it as good as they think that they're going to. They might not get as much as they think that they're going to. But you know what? That little bit of break of what they do get, being able to process the oils into edible, or the flower and leaves into edibles and things like that is very important. That helps keep us money, to keep us alive, because they lied to you your whole life and saying money didn't grow on trees. They lied to you. They did. And that's something that can help our supplemental income, can help keep us afloat in times when we can't afford $45 for a tenth.
Yeah, I was gonna say, speak on that.
And what is a tenth?
Not a full eighth.
It's supposed to be an eighth, a quarter, a half, an ounce. What? Why are we reinventing the wheel? That's what I mean. Like when House Bill 523 came, they really pushed this through with the quickness, because we was pushing for OMM and had 3/4 of the signatures to make the ballot, and they just pushed it through. And there's a lot of empty holes in this program that we need to try to fix. And I feel, with recreational marijuana coming, if we complain and bring up the right issues, once we transition into recreational marijuana, it'll be better for all the people and the patients, instead of just pushing it through. Like, let's do this and do it right. Make sure we got social equity, make sure that we expunge marijuana related crimes. And we got to make sure that we get our people out of prison that are doing time for a plant. This is some very important things that Ohio has kind of just missed out on. And we need to try to work on moving forward, expanding the medical program, doing things for patients, just to make it better for all of us. Because every single person in here is pretty disappointed with the program right now. I mean, let's not lie. I mean, we really want to make this better for the people, and we have to keep it real to ourselves to be able to do that. And we have to work together to be able to do that as well.
And I'd like to add to that. Basically, to add on to what they were both saying, I totally agree. Like, if the patients were allowed to grow, it would make the community, the cannabis community, stronger, and not just grow, but everyone would be involved more in wanting to know how to. Oh, I need my plants processed. So processors should be able to help patients in that way to process their medicine to different forms. If they can't, they need to get it legally tested to make sure they're providing good, fine quality medicines to themselves, or the caregivers are providing it for the patients. It should be set up in that way. Cannabis the plant itself is made to provide unity amongst people in communities everywhere. Right now, the program is kind of against community, it seems. So I think that's something big that we need to change for that. And one more thing. Speaking as a patient, well, as far as the opioids, I totally agree. Like, there's no real system set up for people trying to get off pain meds. The synthetic medicines versus the plants. Like, why is there got to be one or the other? Why can't there be something where it could work together so that they can transition to the correct area and a better quality of life? Like, I thought this program was designed to do that, but it seems in a lot of ways they're restricting it. So I think we need to fix that as soon as possible.
And just to add on to what the panelists have said, I personally 100% support home grow, as does the business I work for, Galenas. They 100% support home grow as a cultivation facility. It pains me when I talk to patients and they say that they can't buy our product or other cultivators' products because they can't afford it that month. And economic freedom, economic equity is a critical piece to any adult use policy, to any medical policy. It was definitely left out in our medical program in Ohio, and it's the key. It's the answer, and it has to be included in adult use policy.
I got one more thing. Sorry. Just to speak on that too, because of people not being able to afford some of the products, that leaves products on the shelves longer, meaning patients that sick patients get terrible quality stuff. It's supposed to, not saying like it's not good quality from the medicine programs, but over time you want them to get the freshest available medicine as possible. And if it's just sitting there, you can't sell it, then clearly we need more people involved and to know about it. But it's got to be with the day system limiting people's choices and actually approaches to finding a better way of healing. I feel like that's ruining people's approach to this too, a better style of medicine for life.
So that is the first thing I would change is the homegrown for everyone that has stated on the panel. But the one other thing I would really like to change is our testing. Currently, we only have 3 facilities that do the testing. And I would really like to see an expansion on required testing. So currently in the state of Ohio, it's just THC, THCA, CBD, and CBDA. And you have to pay extra for terpenes. You can get terpenes, but companies have to pay extra. And then the constant testing. So I just think testing is very controlling of companies on what they really want to do, because they have to test and test and test. And it's very, very expensive. I think it's like $500 for each test, more than that. So that really ties the hands, I think, of a lot of businesses out there, as well as the hemp industry. So
I think we're moving right into our next question. And for this question, I just wanted to, we brought up a lot of issues that people have with the program, but I wanted to distill it down into the two most important. So if you could immediately change two things about Ohio's medical marijuana law, what would those two things be?
It would definitely be at home grow. And another thing is your prices, and the prices fall down from your licensing fees. So your licensing fees have to come down. The program needs to be open more publicly to more people who could get into the business side of it. And until those fees and stuff come down, your prices are going to be high. So.
Mine would be the allotment system in the days, get rid of that, and the tier system, because again, those two are kind of like prohibiting people to actually shop and explore the cannabis medicine the way they should, and all the other like vendors out there. Because if you find something that works and then you're like, oh, well, I gotta try and sacrifice 3 days or 4 days for something new that you may not like, you may not decide to try to go with it at all.
Of course, home grow would be the first thing that I would do. This is the first thing I would change and allow for home grow. But the most important thing for me beyond home grow is for caregivers to have the right to grow for their patients. In Michigan, we are allowed to grow 12 plants per person, and we can have 5 patients under our care. So I'm allowed to grow by law 72 plants for my patients. So without having a pipeline to where you can go get your education, where you can learn how to actually take care of a patient, we need to address those issues so that caregivers are trained and educated, and so that caregivers have a way of then getting into the mainstream industry. My goal would be so that caregivers can also just work with patients, but also work with the industry people. Now, I'm not for testing my own personal cannabis at home. If it's my weed, I know what I put in it, I know what I grew. But if I am a caregiver and I'm providing medicine for other people, I absolutely do not have a problem testing my product and showing you my paperwork of the work that I've done. And so therefore, I am for creating a pipeline for caregivers to be subcontracted with cultivators, subcontract to work with processors. And if you're going to test my product and it tests good the same way as a cultivation product test, then my product should be able to be in dispensaries, even if I have to work with somebody to get it in a dispensary. So to have that ability to become from the underground to a caregiver to an actual genetic holding person in this cannabis space, those would be the two things that I would change.
Man, she's tough to follow up sometimes. I tell you, I got my work cut out for me. But of course, the two things that if I would change immediately in Ohio, of course, it would be home grow. That is something that I just mentioned a minute ago, that I do believe every single marijuana supporter on the planet agrees that we should be able to grow at home as well. But another thing, I just want to switch it up a little bit that I think should be a little bit more important for my second thing that I would like to change about the Ohio Medical Marijuana Program, and that is patient and dispensary and patient and grower interactions. Say if I get a cartridge that's no good, who do I go to? It's like, you try to email them, they give you the runaround. There's really not any type of standard that we really do or practice in Ohio when it comes to things like that. And I think, because things happen, especially when it comes to the newer vaporization products, possibly getting something that's a little short because they shelved it and it dried wet and it dried light and it's not the same, it doesn't weigh as much as it did when they put it on there just because some of the processing and stuff is wrong. But as a patient, if I have an issue, it feels like I can't get a hold of nobody to fix my problem. And I think that has something to do with the control board as well. I think that they need to try to set up something that once we have an issue with with a product or something like that, we could have somebody that we could reach out to that can help us navigate through some of them problems. Because I see Anthony Quoto posting about it all the time, and it's just something that we really just need to focus on, and that's something that I'd like to change, just to switch up topics a little bit.
That's a good point. I would really like to see them thinking more futuristic towards adult use, is really including the micro grow that other states have integrated. So which would allow, that whole vertical that the caregiver can grow and work it that way, and just create that niche for the smaller companies as well.
Those are all great answers. Thanks, everybody. One concern I hear quite frequently, and we touched on this, is that high product prices are a problem. They're a problem for many patients, and they're a barrier to entry for many prospective patients. I also hear that very frequently. I would get my card, but I can't afford it. I can't afford to shop in a dispensary. I can only afford to buy from off the street. Okay, so here's our question. What type of legislative initiative would you suggest which could help bring prices down in Ohio's industry?
Okay, here's what we need to do. Schools like Cleveland Cannabis College need to allow their students to grow and then provide cannabis for indigent patients. If you need your hair done, you can go to Carousel Beauty College and students will do your hair. Why don't we have our students providing low-income people with actual cannabis the same way we do hair, the same way if you go get a massage, you can go to a massage school and have the students do it. If we could allow our students to participate in both research and providing cannabis for indigent people, we could get them out of that market where they don't need to be anyway. And then for people who could afford it, they can go to the dispensary. But we definitely need to have our either nonprofits or we need to have our schools in a position to where we can take care of the needs of veterans, of parents, of hospice people. If you are in hospice, you should not be worrying about how much your cannabis is going to cost when you have volunteers. In Michigan, we have compassion centers where as a patient, and now I'm healthy, I can go volunteer at the compassion center and I can grow your cannabis for you absolutely free of charge. The only thing they say is you have to pay for the seeds and then you have to pay for any nutrients and you and your caregiver work all of that out. But it is not for profit. It is actually for compassion. And if they would allow both nonprofits, I'm not saying volunteers, but the volunteers could go work for the school. But we should absolutely have the schools or nonprofits growing and providing cannabis for indigent patients, veterans, and everybody else.
Well, I love that idea, but the first thing that needs to be done is we have to deschedule it because our hands are totally tied until that happens. And so we need that research to get out there and get to our federal government so they can deschedule it. Because that's the only way that we can do that type of initiative at our school. Because right now, a lot of times we're looking to do that with hemp, or we're looking to do it in other states and starting that home grow and education. So that is something we do have in our pipeline, is that we are creating a curriculum, but it has to be in homegrown state. So maybe we get a homegrown state and then we can implement that. But I like that idea. It's great.
And secondly, I'll say something Tasha's already doing, the expungement clinics. That's something that we need to continue to look into and consider. There's a lot of people that's locked up for, even you said it too, 420 kid, that's locked up for this plant and shouldn't be. So we definitely need to continue to do further studies and research and education, and spreading awareness and doing whatever we can do to get people that were locked up for this plant or whose lives were ruined for this plant turned around. If they can't, get back a job to become normal back in society, how do you expect them to not go back to their old ways? Or so just feel like we could do better in that sense.
I think we could definitely open up for some research, and that's really their big holdup federally. Why they won't legalize is their big excuse is it doesn't do anything or nothing's been proven. There's no medical benefits. It actually has been proven over and over again, and anything that they have set up for research, they stop researching because they're always trying to prove it bad and wrong and be against it, and it proves against what they're trying to prove. So we need open access federally. We need to deschedule it and just legalize it and quit fighting over which way we're going to legalize it and how we're going to control it and how much fees we're going to bring in. We need to make money off the taxes. We don't need to make money off feeing the businesses thousands and hundreds of thousands and $500,000 fees. This is ridiculous. It's a big money game. So if we just descheduled it and legalized it, that'd be the best thing for everyone. And we would treat it like a plant, just like a strawberry or an orange or a tomato. We don't need regulations. We need to treat it like an herb, like a plant.
That, you guys are really good at segueing into our next question. That leads us to our next question. There's been a lot of complaints about the lack of small business opportunities in Ohio's medical cannabis program. What type of policy could be built to bring true small business ownership, entrepreneurship into Ohio's medical cannabis program, in your opinion?
I think it's fees again. You need to lower the fees, and a lot of the medical people in the medical program currently do not want the competition. They don't want the smaller business. They don't want people to be able to afford a $5,000 license. But that's exactly what we need. We need to open it up to the public and make it accessible to anyone who wants to be in it. And that your education will follow that, because there are a lot of people that know nothing about the plant, but there are a lot of people who just can sit there and educate you on the plant day after day after day. So the more you open it up to the public and you have that access, the more education you're going to get to the public, and the better they're going to think about this plant.
Clearly, I'm for open up that market. If we can create a more open market where you can start off as a patient and go to a caregiver and then work directly with the people who have the license so that you can get your product into the dispensary. If we have a more open system where we welcome new people coming in so that it's not stagnant. We have so many dispensaries, and all the dispensaries are selling all of the same things. They're offering you all the same things because only like 5 or 6 people are doing all of the grows for the state of Ohio. If we start allowing more people to grow, more people to get into this, more people to come up with more products to put in these dispensaries. That is why we have in Michigan, like the High Times Cannabis Cup. It is so that you can actually show people what are the new products, what are the new availabilities. And you can, if we stop being competition and be more collaborative, then the small business and the big businesses can again work together to provide the best medicine, the best education, and the best opportunities. When you have small businesses who are fully funded, and that means we need to create some social equity and have some capital so that these businesses can not just open, but stay open, then we will have a more productive state, because small businesses pay for their kids to go to ballet. Small businesses turn renters into homeowners. That's how you create generational wealth. So when we create a possibility of more small businesses, that's no different than the wine industry. It's no different than the beer industry. If you can craft beer and then sign a contract with Yuengling, am I saying that correct?
Yeah.
Yuengling, Budweiser, somebody. You can develop a whole new line of something. And that means now your kids can go to a better school. That means now you can create things, do things, philanthropy. When you put money into the hands of those who were once poor, we tend to be able to make a dollar go further. We tend to look out for other people more so because we know what it feels like to be left out. So by creating small businesses, we create a better America.
Yeah.
Once again, tough to follow up. But to answer your question, the fees are the biggest thing. Doing things like this to bring up the questions that we're and concerns that we're all trying to bring up and topics to bring up is something that's going to help as well. We need to open up the industry. We need to have more medical conditions, more people able to access the medicine. We also need an opportunity for small businesses like myself to try to get into the industry, give us platforms, give us events, give us networking opportunities to try to get to that next level. Because with me and my success, networking is everything. You're only worth the 5 people that you're around the most. And that becomes true to a certain extent. So if you put the people of education around you, the people of knowledge around you, you're going to be able to build it a lot better. And being able to open this up for small businesses is super important for minorities and everybody in the game, because that's another thing that disappointed me with medical marijuana coming to Ohio is the prices, the availability for somebody like myself who isn't very well off to be able to have a fighting chance in this industry. And really, to this point, like we really haven't. Honestly, like we really haven't. You really have to kind of be a certain person in a certain suit in Ohio, know a certain politician, it seems like. So we really need to open up the industry for small businesses and mom and pop shops to be able to thrive, because those are the ones I want to support with my money.
Thanks, Bill. Along with the fee is the application process. I don't know if anyone's ever looked at an application to get a cultivation license or even a processing license or a hemp license. They're very complex and they're very long. And if you don't know how to fill them out properly, that is going to hinder you getting the license. So I think they need to simplify the application as well as reduce the fee, or at least maybe have a nonprofit consulting firm that would help people guide them through. Because if you can't write an SOP and get through the door, the standard operating procedure, you're not going to even be able to start on an equal playing field. So I think we really need to look at it from that business line of how do we get people in the door on the smaller level by helping them fill out the application, understanding all the rules and regulations that go along with the industry. So I think there's a huge learning curve there. And I think that's where a good nonprofit could come in and really help with consulting someone on filling out that application and then also sourcing money. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I believe that if they reduce the fees and the application fee, it could be more of a community, as I mentioned earlier. As small businesses should be able to work with the larger ones. We should be able to, once laws change, if you're able to cultivate or do your own home grow, you should be able to go get your stuff processed, like I said earlier, and be able to turn that into a product that you could legally sell or benefit and provide to patients or whatnot. There's ways that we could all work together, and there's room for everyone in this industry to work together, whether it's the big industries or the small. We just got to find ways to figure it out.
Another thing that a lot of people don't know that would help is I think we should have a residential requirement. About over 80% of our medical marijuana program is owned by out-of-state corporations, and your license are transferable. They're not clapping for the out-of-state corporations. No, and that license is transferable after 1 year. So anyone can get a license. Well, not anyone, sorry, you got to have a $500,000 liquid X. But if you have that and you can afford to get your license and you go through their application process and you qualify and you've got the highest numbers, good. Hold on to that license for a year, and that's all it will take. And you can resell it for millions of dollars to the out-of-state corporations who are coming and eating us up. So if you want to keep it small and if you want to keep it local and you want to keep the business here in Ohio, you need a state requirement. That's We
Yes.
have to do that.
Yes, and follow up what you was just saying about the state requirements like that. Pennsylvania added a social equity policy to theirs too, and they're incorporating things like that as well.
And it shouldn't be transferable. What about the other 160 people who applied? You know, there's 169 applicants and there's only 20 some license available. Well, go down that line. Those other people paid $20,000 just to apply. So we need to open it up to them first, and we just need to make all the fees and requirements lower. This is ridiculous. Why do we have to be rich to grow this plant or in the industry? The rich don't know how.
And once again, a perfect segue into our last question here today. We have some minority-owned businesses in the house today, trailblazers in Ohio's industry, Ben Leaves, Harvest, Nora Labs, Midwest Can of Women. We have some folks that are really working hard to bring social equity to Ohio's cannabis industry. And we have some adult use initiatives that are swirling about and seems very likely that we're going to get some traction on something here in the next year. So what would you recommend in a policy format, or what would you like to see in a social equity in an adult use program in Ohio?
As we mentioned in the last question, it would help if for those people, the smaller business owners looking to get in, if they could get the help and advice from the right people or right resources to get started and to be able to last long, prolong their business in the industry. Basically, there should be people that's already in it willing to like, hey, let me teach you the ropes. As I said before, there's plenty of room for everyone in it, and there's money to be made for everyone, but it shouldn't just be about, you got to have a certain amount to even be able to be involved or have access or to be considered an owner. It should be, allowed or accessible to those that were the neighborhoods and communities that were really affected. My father, his life was turned upside down over paraphernalia, and like to this day, he's still been trying to get his life on track. And I just don't feel like it's fair that, there's people that can have the money, but have no idea on how to run the business or even any idea about the plan on people's medicine and people's quality of life in the state.
Yes, there you go. Micro entity licensing, and to have a state-funded social equity firm so that if you have a personal value of less than $1 million, we can take some money that instead of having prisons for pay prisons, let's use some of that money instead of paying prisoners, money to help for cannabis companies to become sustainable with state funds if you have a value of less than $1 million. Those companies should be helping the indigent. I believe that if we're gonna pay for Viagra, we should pay for cannabis.
Great point. And how I see how we can deal with social equity moving forward, and some things that we could do to help make sure that everybody is represented in the business, in the industry, as well as consumers. And in my opinion, something like full decriminalization, to where we take the penalty to zero, to treat everybody equal. So it doesn't matter if they don't like you or not. There's no way that somebody could be penalized for it. So I think decriminalization is one reason or one thing that we could do to help forward this as well. We also need to expunge our marijuana convictions from our records. I have 8 possessions of marijuana in Ohio, and I'm a medical patient. Since I've been a patient the last 3 years, they've never really searched me. It's frustrating. I mean, I shouldn't be saying that, I guess, but that's just how things are going now. And we also need to utilize the resources of the industry to have events like a fair or event to be able to help minorities and small business owners have an opportunity to link up with some of these big people in the industry. Get their card, get their number, work your magic. Networking, like I said, is number one to all this. So giving the people the opportunity to link up with everybody in the marijuana industry, from growers to dispensaries to processors. I mean, we really need to do all that. And honestly, to make it work, everyone in the cannabis industry, the regulators, the business owners, and the consumers all have to play their part to make this work. And it's about 68% of everybody on the planet supports marijuana, but that's everybody on the planet. So we need to incorporate everybody on the planet when we're doing these policies.
I would just say that Ohio should look at other states that have done a really good job with social equity, and look how we can just, not reinvent the wheel, but use what they've been doing. Unfortunately, when medical marijuana came, they took that part out of the bill because they were forced to by the law. So unfortunately, it's really hard getting it back in right now. But I think we can do it with adult use and really look at other states that have done a good job.
Great. Well, I'd like to open it up now for some questions. We've got Anthony back there monitoring the Zoom call. So if anybody that's watching on the live stream would like to ask a question, now is the time. And if there's, we'll start off though with people in the room. If anybody in the room has a question for our great panelists here, I'll give you guys a few moments to ask some questions. Anyone? You guys got a lot of answers, I think, from the panelists today. You're like filled to the top.
Yeah, we try to cover everything.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, guys. So I'll give you guys one more last call for questions. Sure.
How would each of your businesses change with legalization in Ohio and federal?
I do consulting. I work with people who want to go to school or people who want to start a business. I have a 420 friendly travel agency, so I can only book you places where you can actually have legal access to weed, because I have too many friends who travel. And the first thing that they do when they go out of town is this. That is the universal sign for where is the weed? Where's the weed? And so if we have a travel agency that can send you there, make sure that you have what you need. Now, if you all want to come to Michigan, I have a bed and breakfast. I work with Huron View, which is one of the first African-American female-owned dispensaries in Ann Arbor. I have a private masseuse. I have a private chef. We do puff and paint. We do medicated massages. You can come up there and spend the night or spend the weekend. So how would it affect my business? I would open one in every state. And then if it was federally descheduled or rescheduled, and now we can go into international sales, I would have one in Belize. I would have one in France. I would have one in every country, in every neighborhood that would allow it.
And to answer your question, I have a CBD shop, the Holistic Cloud, in Bel Air, Ohio. And if legalization happened, of course, it just helps excel my business as well. It makes people in the public be like, oh, well, it's legal now. We can smoke. And there is a lot of people that don't smoke just because it's illegal. They've got a lot to lose with their church, with their job, with their families. So, it would definitely expand my business up quite a bit, because everybody, like I said, will be comfortable at that point and be able to be able to walk into a dispensary or into the head shop and to buy a bong or a bowl and know it's fully legal and know that they're not going to get in trouble. Because really, that's a big thing that stops a lot of people from shopping in my shops. Like I got teacher friends that will never come near my shop. And I'm just like, gosh, guys, like it's not that big of a deal. But I understand everybody has their images to uphold in certain situations, but it would excel my business incredibly.
We've already, it's not federally legal, but our doors are pretty open always over at Bentley's. We try to provide tours to those that are willing to come and check out and get an education on the plant and how we make it. But it might blow the doors off if it does become legal. So, because we were always happy to, let people come in and see how the medicine is made and just continue to serve the community, find good quality medicine. And be able to work with them too and help produce some of their own medicine.
I think home grow would help my business just because I manufacture fertilizer. But what's more important than that is people creating and growing their own medicine and educating people on the terpenes and their effects. And it's not about THC and getting high. It's about being able to grow your own medicine that will relieve your own ailments. And people talk to me all the time and I'm like, what's your problem? Well, cannabis will help that. Well, what's your problem? Well, cannabis will help that. And they're like, well, how does it just help everything? And it's because that's what type of body system we have. That's what we run off of. And it's just, that would totally open just education up to people who would never even try it or, think about it or have always thought it was bad. Just to give them another aspect, another look at, another side.
I'm going to pass the mic over to Anthony. I'm going to pass the microphone here over to Anthony Riley, our host here. And he has a few questions from the live stream.
All right. So, we do have some people that are watching this via Zoom, and we also have people watching this on YouTube as well. If you are on YouTube right now, we cannot see your comments. So if you do want to ask a question, you do need to go to the Zoom. You can do that by going to ohiocannabislive.com/join now and clicking on the button that is for the discussion panel. One thing that was asked was, why hasn't Ohio done a disparity study yet? And I've heard some mention of that being in the process, but does anybody else have any more information about that particular topic? Done a disparity study, I guess, about, why the study, you have to do a study, a predicate study is what they're calling. For a social equality, the social equity.
Oh, okay.
Because one of the things that the pharmacy board came back and said when they threw out the minority provision was that there was no evidence of social, of some type of disparity against minorities or other poor people.
So I actually talked to a lawyer, Dave Patton, about why did they have to remove it? And it was that, well, there's no proof that there's social equity in the cannabis industry, specifically because we haven't had an industry. So there's no data to support it. So I'm hoping somebody's out there collecting data, but I do not know specifically. Hopefully somebody else does.
When they took it out, because there was no data, they said that we had to wait in order to request that data information. So the reason it hasn't been done is because at this point, the program is still running, that no one has asked, no one, like a state representative has asked, we would like this done. So that's why we couldn't get social equity based off of race. So what we're trying to get social equity off is inclusion, to say we need more women involved. We need more socially, economically challenged people to have a pipeline to be involved. But thus far, no one has brought it up.
Yeah, I haven't heard of initiative to start, but I think that's a really good starting place because then you have that data to prove there is a social equity issue. So who's going to start it? Anyone out there?
And the other question that was asked, and this kind of one I think comes up a lot, and I think a lot of patients probably want to know the answer is anybody working on getting those THC caps upped or removed? That was the other question I seen in there. Does anybody have insight on getting the cap taken off?
Not that I've heard.
I want it off. Let's go unlimited.
Yeah, I would like to see the cap taken off as well. Even though I am somebody who obviously uses a lot more than the next person, THC level percentage means nothing to me. I am 16 to 21. That's my sweet spot. The strains that I like, the indicas that give me the relaxation. I don't want nothing too intense. It doesn't really matter. So the THC cap, it hurts, especially for the oils, only being able to have 70%. So there's cancer patients out here that need to take 60 grams of the 90% stuff. How many grams they got to take of the 70%? Like, what are you guys even watering it down with? Can we please have pure medicine? Because when it really comes down to it, Ohio's always pushing us to vaporize and use oils and edibles. But you guys give me mids at 70% dabs. I mean, some of the stuff is pretty good, but we needed the THC cap to be higher for the dabs, and the flower just doesn't even matter. Because like I said, 17 to 21% is my sweet spot. And I've smoked 120 gram joints and did 23 gram dabs. So, I still am okay with tier 1.
I think it would definitely open up the program if they got rid of the percentages and even allotments, like I mentioned earlier. People would try more products and be willing to explore their true path to wellness without having to be limited.
I do think concentrates should not be capped because there's some amazing processors out there and they're creating 99%. So then look at this great yield I got. And now I gotta, dummy it down. So they're making the products already. And so I do think, with concentrates, that's the name of the game with that. So.
We can take one more question if there's a question. Go ahead. The question was on concealed carry. Can anyone handle that?
Don't ask, don't tell.
I can go ahead.
Don't ask, don't tell.
I can kind of dive into that a little bit. I'm a marijuana activist. I try to go through the water with the police so they don't mess with you guys. So when I first started hearing about that, we couldn't have our guns and we couldn't have both licenses. I already had my CCW and then went and got my medical card. So at this time I have both. So you can do it, but there's a gray area. When I go back to renew that form, it's going to ask me if I have used marijuana or any drugs or anything like that. If I say no, I'm lying, knowing that I'm a state registered medical marijuana patient. They're going to know I'm lying. So they can get you for lying on a federal form. So as far as going that far, I don't know. I've had mine for a few years and they haven't bothered me. If they do, of course, I'll just lawyer up and fight them. But
do they say you can't have a gun?
yeah, and that's the thing. People could take Oxycontins, they could take these Roxys, they could take all these other pills that are just obviously impairing your abilities, and even alcohol. But yet marijuana, it just doesn't really make sense in some of the policies. That's why we're up here complaining. We really need to move forward with it.
Correct. I don't know anyone fixing it, but it does need change because if you can go drink alcohol and possess a gun, that's clearly more dangerous. Well, that's what I meant. You can. Well, I mean, no, you still on the form.
No, it is
No,
not.
it's not.
No.
Yeah, I think everybody still has the right to own a gun.
You can own it, you just can't carry it. And if you are a minority, all that, no. The rule is no. If the rule is no, you follow the rule no. Can you have a cannabis card in the CCW? No. Do you want to get bopped over the head by the police or shot and killed because you have a gun? No. So the answer is no. Now, Bill, I love you. You know I love you, but that is white privilege, baby. If the rule is no, you cannot, and you're like, I'm going to make it past this moment and I'm going to fight this with the police. I'm not going to have that same attitude. I cannot have a gun and have a medical marijuana card until it is federally legal for me to do it. That's the only way you can do it legally. Do not lie on federal papers. You will go to jail. Now, is Bill gonna go to jail? Probably not. If I do, as a Black man, is Roderick going to jail? Yes, he is going to jail. So no, the answer is no.
Yes, and to follow up on that too, I don't recommend anybody to try to do anything that I do, okay? Like I said, I'm a sacrificial lamb put here on 420 to do some of these things. I don't recommend going and doing any of that until you get full legal consultation from somebody who really knows. And right now in Ohio, it's a super gray area. So just because I did it doesn't mean that you guys should go out and do it. So do not take that as me saying, oh yeah, it's cool, go ahead, you could do it. No, I'm just that guy. If they come after me, I have a problem suing the state and the cops. And I like holding them accountable. So if they're gonna come after me, cool. At least they're not coming after you.
All right, everybody, we're out of time. I'd like you guys give a big hand to all of our great panelists today. It was an awesome talk. Thank you guys all for coming out. Thanks, everybody. Great job. That was awesome.